I'm Jen Sui. I'm a health and life coach empowering women to break through their fears, be confident in their authentic self, and create thriving relationships along the way. This is the Find Your Freedom podcast. Hi everybody, welcome back to the Find Your Freedom podcast. I'm Jen, and today we are going to continue our episode on how to make good decisions quickly and without regret. So this is part 2 of 2 in this series. If you haven't listened to the first one yet, you need to listen to that first, and then you can come back to this and save it and come back to it because it's going to be awesome. So in the first part, as you know, we went through the mental framework for decision making as well as some key concepts to keep in mind when you're making decisions. So that part, I hope you got from it basically how to think independently and how to trust yourself through it, because you're going to need to use that wisdom and actually be able to integrate those concepts into your life before these questions can actually create the massive transformations in your life that I know it can create. Okay, so before we begin, I do want to just give you one more piece of advice or word of wisdom to help you move forward in making these decisions and actually trusting your answers that come out of this. So that is that you get to be the main decision maker in your life. Okay, I say this because I have had clients who are students, who are in undergrad or graduate, who are still, being provided for by their parents or partially being dependent on them. I have worked with people who are in relationships who have a ton of debt and feel like that their decisions are chained to their debt, stuff like that. And I want to make it very clear that if you're listening to this and you are an adult, you get to be the main decision maker in your life, because legally you are responsible for all the decisions in your life. Okay, so keep this in mind. Like, if you were to go and kill somebody right now, you would bear the consequences of that to the full extent of the law because you are an adult. So there's no one to turn to for that, right? So consequently and similarly, I want you to take that into your life and all the decisions that you're going to be making about your relationships, about your career, about your health, your wellness, your food, all these different things, right? You are the one who bears all the consequences of the decisions that you make. Therefore, you get to be the one who has the final say. Also, if you are concerned of parental judgment or friend judgment or your relationship, like spouse, significant other, whoever it is, if you're afraid of their judgment, just keep in mind that those who truly love you are not going to care, because one of my favorite quotes, those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. At the end of the day, the people who love you, and they want to support you. They want to see you be happy, and any influence that they're trying to give you and push you in a decision is typically out of love and a concern for your well-being, and they just want to protect you. And similarly, your body and your brain want to protect you, because in the old days, if you went against that intuition that felt like this is not safe, you're about to spend a bunch of money on this thing, or you're about to quit your job, you're about to leave your friends and shun this friend who's actually been really toxic to you, the thought is that you're going to die. I'm not exaggerating here, that's probably how it feels in your body too a lot of times, as this anxiety wrapped up around it, because it was for a fear of survival. So in the old days, you would be cast out of the tribe, or if you were rejected by your friend group, then that means your survivalhood likelihood is way, 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 way down, right? You're probably going to be eaten by a bear or starved to death, something like that. Right? And if you were dumb enough to just leave your tribe, or let's say you were a woman, right, and you were a gatherer, not a hunter, and you were like, I'm going to be a gatherer now because I want to be strong, you would probably die also, right? So all of these different confines that we have that are keeping us in this box is for your safety, right? It is a false sense of security because it's dangerous, quote unquote dangerous in the outside world to go outside of that. So just keep that in mind whenever you are making your own decisions, that right now you're not in that survival space. You don't, like, you deciding to end a friendship or end a relationship or go into a new relationship or start a new career, that is not going to be the make or break of your life. And so often you can like think that it might feel that way because that's how we're wired, but it's not. You get to choose your decisions, right? You get to make your own decisions. You get to create whatever life that you want. Okay, great. So now that we got that out of the way, you understand that you make your own decisions. Let's get into these questions. So the first question I want you to ask yourself is, who is influencing my decision? And the follow-up question for that is, what is truly my decision and what I want for myself? So when you can be honest about who is influencing your decisions, like your parents, your significant other, your siblings, roommates, whatever it is, then you can actually discern what are their thoughts, what are their worries and opinions about what you should do, versus what is it that is actually your thoughts and your worries. And those two might be similar because you are a product of your environment, and obviously other people, you might have taken other people's influence to core, but in order to actually create that discernment is going to be the first step. Okay, so what is actually like your concerns or judgments about what you should do? And using that, you can ask yourself, what is truly your decision? And what is it that you want for yourself? So literally understanding that you are the one who has to live with all the consequences of your decisions in your life. You are the one who is going to have the responsibility to make that payment for a college education that maybe your parents are really pushing you to, but you don't really want, or you're the one who's going to have to actually bear the consequence of staying in a job for another 5 years that you don't like and that you wake up with no energy with, right? You're the one who's actually bearing the consequences of all of those decisions, not the people who are telling you, you should go get this education because it's going to increase your value and like you're going to be a contributing member to society, or you should keep this job because you have stable income. Why would you give that up, right? Those are not the people who are actually going to truly benefit or be harmed by your decision. So when you can actually get clear for what is it that you really want in life, which I think for most people is to be happy, to be healthy, right? To be fulfilled, then that can help you lead your decision making. So the third question I want you to ask yourself once you figure that out is, what would happen if you had your own back? Another nuance to this question, or like way you can think of it, is like, how can I have my own back? All right, and this comes from the idea of knowing that other people who really matter to you are going to support you, but a lot of times we doubt ourselves. We don't think we're good enough. We feel like we're an imposter, or we don't have like what it takes. We don't have the resilience or the skill set or the knowledge or whatever it is to do what we actually want to do. And I think a lot of people are also scared of success. Like, what would happen if you succeeded, right? Then that means you have to take on all this other responsibility that maybe you don't know, or that you're afraid of, because that would reveal that you're actually an imposter, right? Stuff like that. So what would happen if you had your own back? Regardless of what happens, regardless of if you succeed or fail, regardless of the decision that you make, regardless of the outcomes, if you can figure out how to have your own back no matter what, and trust that whatever decision that you made was out of the intention to serve yourself, then you're going to be okay, right? And even if you do make a decision not for your highest self, or like not aligned with who you are and who you want to be, then you can always say, oops, so what? And when you say like, oops, so what, it also helps you find the silver lining in things and not take life so seriously. Because when you take life too seriously and you take your failures too seriously, or even successes too seriously, it can bring you to a state of inaction and create that box around you again. So just be cautious of that. Okay, question number 4. What would my highest and best self do or say in this situation? So this goes back to what we were talking about of having your own back when you're making decisions. When you're in between a big lifestyle change or a big career change or even a relationship change. Oftentimes that means that we have to shift our concept of self in some manner. We have to evolve the way that we see ourselves and our identity and expand it to include this version of ourselves that we're trying to be, right? So for example, if you're the person who always overate when you were stressed, who had a pint of ice cream anytime that you felt bad about work or your job or whatever, you tended to ignore your feelings, you just slept it off instead, you talked like shit to yourself, you put down yourself all the time, you never thought you were good enough, you never wore clothes that actually felt good because you were like, I need to lose weight first or whatever, all these different things, then that was like the version of you who you're trying to leave. And when you are evolving, creating these healthier habits like managing your emotions or learning how to be kind to yourself and kind to your body, honoring your hunger, honoring your satiety, honoring your cravings, all these things, when you're trying to do that, your current self or past self is like, what the hell, this is not who we are. This does not fit in this box that I created for you. This is who we are. What are you doing? Right? And so it wants to kick that out as soon as possible and bring you back to what you know, because that's comfortable. So if you know that the decision that you're making, the choices that you're creating for yourself of these new healthy habits or a new way of thinking, like not thinking so negatively or trying to find the silver lining in things, creating a new identity for yourself, if you know that that is in the interest of your highest and best self and who you're trying to be, then it's going to be a lot easier to just push past all the asshole shit that your brain is telling you, okay? Because your brain is human and it's going to allow you to push past the discomfort so that you can move towards what you actually want to do. That brings me to question number 5. Is this aligned with my values? And question number 6, will this move me towards or further away from the person I am trying to become? If you don't know your values, that's number 1. Go figure out what your values are, your core values. For me, my number 1 value is authenticity, right? So authenticity is number 1, number 2 is honesty. So those two are my moral compasses and decision-making compasses. Like, is this out of honesty and integrity? And is this out of my truest self? Like, is this out of the expression of who I actually want to be and who I want to become? So understanding, like, what is it that I'm moving towards, which is to be a fucking boss bitch, right? With my business. I want to change thousands and thousands and thousands of lives with health coaching and life coaching. I want to better myself in the process and keep investing in my personal development with my life coaches and everything else in my health, right? Like if what I'm choosing to do is not aligned with that, and then that means that I'm acting out of integrity. I'm acting out of my own values and I'm going against myself and I'm moving myself further away from my goals. And why would I want that, right? The fear of backtracking and being the person I was when I was like 16 or like 18 or whatever, which was mental shit show, basically. Like, that pain of living in that era is so much greater than whatever pain I'm going to have to go through in order to get to the next level of my life, right? All the failures I'm going to have to expect or like deal with, all the rejections I'm going to get, like that pain is minimal compared to the pain of living in this shitty state of health and wellness. So we did just talk a little bit about backtracking to understanding what was your pain in the past, right? And is this pain that are you willing to basically experience different pain so that you can push past that and avoid the pain that you experienced in the past? That leads me to my last, final, juicy, deep question to help you make decisions, and that is, will this decision matter in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years? So I have like a 1, 5, 10 rule. I used to be like 1, 3, 5, but then I added 10 in there because I was like, some things you can think will matter in like 5 years, but then like, what about in 10 years, right? You can even take this to the extent of like, will this matter on my deathbed? But I think for most people, you can't even conceptualize that, which is why I say to ask yourself, will this decision matter in 1, 5, or 10 years? If you're trying to do something on a small scale, right? Like trying to make a really small decision, like, should I have cake tonight after dinner or before dinner? Will that decision matter in a year? Probably not. In fact, I guarantee you it will not. Even if you had an entire cake at the end of dinner or before dinner, in a year from now, that won't really matter. And you might be thinking to yourself, like, what the hell? Like, you're going to gain so much weight from that, though. And like, yeah, of course it would matter in a year because your health would be declined and you'll get heart disease and diabetes and you'll be so overweight and heavy you won't be able to like leave your bed. Okay, no. That is the fear talking. That is the perfectionist side of you that's like, I have to live by these rules and like I'm not allowed to act out of this because that's not out of my head. So here's the thing. When you realize that it won't matter in a year and you are allowed to do that, when you give yourself permission to make those quote unquote bad decisions. So remember in part 1, we talked about how there's no such thing as a bad decision because you have to make bad decisions in order to learn from it and make good decisions. Yeah, that is what I mean by this. If you have an entire cake for dinner, like, do you think you're really going to do that over and over and over and over again? If you allowed yourself, if you truly gave yourself permission to act that way and to do that, because that's just what you wanted to do, if you truly gave yourself permission to do that every single day for the rest of your life, I guarantee you will not do it. Because by the time you get to like the 3rd cake, or even if you're eating cake for dinner every single night for a month, by the time you get to that 3rd or 30th cake, you're gonna feel so sick to your stomach. You're gonna hate everything about cake. You're gonna think like you're gonna feel so gross, so heavy. You're gonna have no energy in your life. You're gonna have cavities beyond cavities. Like, you're just gonna be so miserable with yourself that you're like, why the hell would I want to do this? Right? It's about giving yourself permission to make those bad decisions again, and to like, I say quote unquote bad decision because again, no such thing as a bad decision. It's about giving yourself permission to do that because it's not going to matter in a year, right? It's not going to matter. Whatever you learn from that, that's what's going to matter. Right? All the outcomes that come from that, all the wisdom that you're going to gain from just experiencing and making decisions, and instead of going back and forth and wasting time and precious energy in your brain being like, should I do it, should I not, should I do it, should I not, should I do it, should I not, like what if I do this, what if I do that, like if I do this and this is going to happen, right? That stupid mind drama is what's clouding your judgment and keeping you from making decisions quickly. So the quicker you can just say, yes, I'm going to eat the cake, no, I'm not going to eat the cake, the sooner you're just going to be able to move on to the next stage of your life. Taking this into account of like 10 years down the road, like, no, it's not going to matter at all. But you know what is going to matter is these other decisions that are made out of your highest self. So the decision to take care of your mental health, for example, the decision to get enough sleep tonight matters, right? That matters now. And like the decision to actually fix your sleep schedule, if you're somebody who's getting like really, really inconsistent sleep, I'm talking about like all-nighters one night, 12 hours the next, like 6 hours the next, 3 hours the next, like really inconsistent schedule, that is going to matter down the road in 10 years. It is. It's going to shorten your lifespan. There's a whole body of research that tells you the importance of sleep and the negative effects of sleep that happens when you're not consistent with it. Like, there are actual health detriments, and not even just that, the emotional detriments and the inability to be connected to your like hunger cues and emotional regulation, just being more volatile, all these things that happen when you don't have a good sleep schedule. Those are real consequences that are going to affect you in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years. Smoking for like 10 years, like that is a big decision that's going to affect you in 10 years. And so making the choice to heal from that, to go to therapy, to hire a coach, to work on yourself, these are all decisions that are going to matter in 10 years, in 5 years, in 1 year. These decisions to better yourself, these investments that you make now with time, with energy, with money, those decisions that are going to matter in 10 years are the ones that you are going to want to take ASAP, right? You don't want to second guess yourself. You don't want to think about like, oh, what if I don't have the money to do this? Like, listen, I paid for like a $2,500 program for like marketing by this one coach because I freaking love her. I love her message, and I could see it paying off in the long run because it's a skill set, right? It's not like I'm just paying for a course. No, like I'm paying for knowledge and experience ahead of time so that I can expedite my growth, right? So similarly with my clients who pay me to work with me one-on-one for life coaching, they're not just paying me to like talk to them for an hour every week. No, they're paying me so that they can create the space for themselves to learn how to coach themselves, how to think differently, create this mindset, and create an attitude towards life that's going to serve them in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years. They're gaining these skill sets to manage their minds in a way that is next level, that is going to put them way ahead of their peers further down the game. They're going to be able to avoid all this pain that comes with not living a fulfilled life, that comes from not having a purposeful career, not having a loving relationship, or not knowing how to communicate in relationship. They're avoiding all of that pain now by working with me, by investing in coaching with me, and by investing in like all the things that come with that as well. Remember that you are your greatest investment of all time, and if you don't feel that way right now, if you don't think that you are, or like you're not actually doing that, like you're investing in all these other things that are not actually for you, like stop that shit. Right? Ask yourself why. Ask yourself, will that decision matter? Right? Take these 7 questions. Who is influencing my decisions? What is truly my decision? And what do I want for myself? Get clear on the vision that you want for yourself and in your life. Learn to have your own back when you make those decisions. Ask yourself, what is possible for you when you do have your own back, when you create decisions and actions out of your highest and best self, and keep it aligned with who you want to become in the future. Alright friends, well that is everything for today's episode. I know that this was jam-packed with a bunch of information, like so much gold in this episode. Like I know it's gold because this is literally what helped me change my life around. That is still my moral compass of like decision making in the future, and the things that I have all of my clients do, and they're like, yes, this is freaking gold. All right, so if you need to go back and re-listen to this episode, have a pencil and pen or paper or whatever it is, and write down notes. Write down these 7 questions. The show notes down below will have timestamps of these questions so that you can go back and listen to your favorite ones in case you want to remind yourself of just how to make these decisions quickly without regret so that you can just be in a state of action. If you want more questions like these and want to become a decision-making machine, then you need to make the decision to better your life and be a one-on-one life coaching client of mine. Just click the link in the show notes down below or visit my site, jensui.com/coaching, to book your 30-minute clarity call and get the ball rolling towards the next level of your life. Trust me, your best self cannot wait for this. You cannot wait for this. Get on my list. Until next time, stay well.